A dangerous mind can have some dangerous thoughts. Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 craziest things Charles Manson has ever said.
And now everything that derives from this is going to be all my fault. I'm coming back because, you know, and I know it's you know, like, where does the buck stop?
Before we begin, we publish new videos every day, so be sure to subscribe for more great content. For this list, we're taking a look at the most worrying, inexplicable, and just plain bizarre statements that have exited this convicted cult leader's mouth.
Who do you think I am? And this is only a couple hours. Can you imagine what it would be like a couple days with me?
Number 10. Charles Manson invented God. It's an age-old question humankind has pondered for centuries. If God created everything, who created God? Well, apparently, we have the head of the Manson family to thank for that. During this especially uncomfortable interview, Charles Manson cites God as his best friend, having created him.
Well, God, I guess you're my best friend, being I invented you.
While that's already a pretty nutty thing to say, what ensues will raise your eyebrows to a whole new level. Upon being asked if he himself is Jesus Christ, Manson explains that there are actually many Jesuses all over the world.
There's all kinds of Jesuses. There's a black Jesus down in Florida. He's having a good time. There's a Mexican Jesus in Mexico.
Okay, it is believed by some that God appears in many forms, but Manson's assessment probably isn't what most people have in mind.
It's a consciousness that lives in your mind.
Number 9. Charles Manson never killed anyone. Charles Manson was convicted of first-degree murder, but he did not directly kill even one of the victims for whom he went to jail. Rather, he ordered members of his quote-unquote family to carry out the Tate LaBianca murders. So, when Manson told Heidi Schulman in 1987 that he, quote, never killed anyone, there's arguably some accuracy to his words.
What do you want to call me a murderer for? I've never killed anyone.
However, Manson's follow-up statement makes about as much sense as Helter Skelter.
I don't need to kill anyone. I think it.
Is Manson implying that he can kill people using his own mind, or that he can get into other people's heads and influence them to commit murder? In any case, it's nothing short of bonkers.
In the spiritual world is where I live. I exist in places you never even dreamed of.
Number 8. Charles Manson is so smart, he's dumb. Believe it or not, Manson wanted to be a rock musician, and has released various albums since he rose to infamy in the early 70s. In 2003, 13 of his recordings from 1967 were finally released on an album entitled All the Way Alive. The whole CD is littered with strange comments, but a standout moment has gotta be when Manson makes this oxymoronic statement.
I was so smart when I was a kid that I learned that I was dumb fast.
Socrates made a similar proclamation when he coined the phrase, "I know one thing, that I know nothing." Unlike Socrates, though, Manson probably won't go down as one of the great philosophers in most people's books.
When I stand on the mountain and I say, do it, it gets done. If it don't get done, then I'll move on it. And that's the last thing in the world you want me to do.
Number 7. Charles Manson is nobody. While Manson has been in the public eye for the better part of 40 years, he is still a riddle wrapped in a mystery inside an enigma. In this interview, a reporter tries to get to the center of this notorious figure, asking Manson to sum himself up in a sentence.
Tell me in a sentence who you are.
Following a series of bizarre facial expressions that would make Jim Carrey jealous, the snickering Manson replies with one word.
Nobody.
An awkward pause ensues, after which Manson proceeds to describe himself in a variety of ways.
I'm a boxcar and a jug of wine. And a straight razor if you get too close to me.
Most disturbing of all, Manson states that if you get too close to him, he's a, quote, straight razor. We didn't think it was possible, but Manson is an even bigger question mark now. Number 6. Charles Manson thinks everybody's crazy. In 1994, ABC News aired a haunting jailhouse interview journalist Diane Sawyer conducted with Manson. Never one to shy away from blunt questions, Sawyer inevitably asks her subject, "Is Charlie Manson crazy?"
Is Charlie Manson crazy?
Or whatever that means. Sure, he's crazy as mad as a hatter. What difference does it make?
Manson doesn't deny that he has a few loose screws, but as far as he's concerned, this makes no difference in today's world.
A long time ago, being crazy meant something. Nowadays, everybody's crazy.
To a certain extent, perhaps everyone is indeed at least a little crazy in this wonderland we call Earth. If you sat down and had a tea party with Manson, though, it's safe to say that most of us would feel like Alice in the Mad Hatter's presence.
It's an unbirthday party.
Unbirthday? Why, I'm sorry, but I don't quite understand.
Number 5. Charles Manson speaks gibberish. By now, you've more than likely noticed that most of the things Charles Manson says are difficult to analyze. However, this statement is so out there that it could be mistaken for an alien speaking another language. In the aforementioned interview with Heidi Schulman, Manson turns the tables and starts asking the questions.
But yet you want to come and say, do you feel blame?
We have no idea what Manson meant by that last question, but the gibberish that follows is even more incomprehensible. Is Manson mocking the reporter, or did he just turn into one of the Looney Tunes?
You feel like
Honestly, neither explanation would surprise us.
Why don't you blame the little babies?
Mr. Emmons, this is a very...
I gotta take a shit. Would you excuse me?
Number 4. Charles Manson's children are coming. Heidi Schulman's interview with Manson was laced with unhinged ramblings, but their meeting reached the pinnacle of creepy towards the end. Once again, the cult leader suggests that he didn't kill anyone. If he started murdering people, however, Manson swears we'd all be in trouble.
Believe me, if I started murdering people, there'd be none of you left.
As if that's not eerie enough, Manson also states that his children are coming, like he's setting up the sequel to a horror picture.
My children are coming. I told you 20 years ago.
What makes these threats especially ironic is that Manson essentially claimed in the same interview that he wouldn't kill somebody if given the opportunity. Then again, Mr. Manson is anything but consistent.
I'm a petty car thief.
Number 3. Charles Manson explains Helter Skelter. Manson sparked the 1969 killing spree through Helter Skelter, a term he derived from a popular Beatles song.
Look out! Helter Skelter!
Manson told his followers that Helter Skelter referred to a looming apocalyptic race war between whites and blacks that the Tate LaBianca murders could help instigate.
So one day he told little Paul Watkins, he says, Paul, we're going to have to show Blackie how to do it because it's not happening.
He suggested that during this race war, his family would hide underground to emerge only after the blacks had claimed victory. The family would then seize control from them to run the world. Of course, Manson contradicted this at his trial, saying, quote, Helter Skelter is confusion. Confusion is coming down around you fast. If you can't see the confusion coming down around you fast, you can call it what you wish. Either way, it sounds like a trip. Number 2. Charles Manson insults Ted Bundy. Charles Manson and Ted Bundy might be among the most infamous criminals in American history, but that doesn't mean they would have been two peas in a pod. In this interview, Manson is asked for his opinion on Bundy, who had been executed in 1989. In response, Manson basically calls the serial killer a bunch of names.
Bundy's a rumpkin. Bundy's a poop butt. Bundy's his mama's boy.
He also challenges Bundy's masculinity.
Bundy's out there trying to prove something to his own manhood. That's got nothing to do with me.
Manson doesn't see eye to eye with Bundy's views on pornography either.
Pornography? I've been looking at it all my life and it hasn't affected me anything.
As troubling as Manson's comments are, it's also darkly humorous to hear him basically turn into a troll with a severe potty mouth. Before we unveil our number 1 pick, here are some honorable mentions.
The Charlie Manson that you created, that's not me. That's only an illusion in your mind, so it hasn't got anything to do with me. You know, if I wanted to kill somebody, I'd take this book and beat you to death with it, and I wouldn't feel a thing. It'd be just like walking to the drugstore.
Number 1. Charles Manson sees all the evil inside. Throughout this list, each entry has offered a glimpse into Charles Manson's twisted mind. In arguably his most unsettling moment ever captured on film, Manson looks inside himself and expresses what he sees.
What do you see when you look inside yourself?
Inside myself, I see everything. I see all.
As for how much evil is in there, Manson claims it's all relative.
How much evil is there?
As much as you see.
What do you see?
All of it.
Following an unnerving cackle, Manson goes on to describe his mind even further.
Dreams you haven't dreamed, and worlds you haven't conquered. The mind is endless.
And as for his jail cell, it's not as limiting to him as you'd think. However you interpret these words, chances are you'll be left chilled to the core.
You put me in a dark, solitary cell. And to you, that's the end. To me, it's the beginning. It's a universe in there. There's a world in there. I'm free.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out these other great clips from WatchMojo and subscribe for new videos every day.